Well, greetings, Delta Chi. My name is Peter Lane. I'm the Director of Development for the Delta Chi Educational Foundation, and I am honored to be joined by Miles Washburn, who is the 52nd AA of the Delta Chi fraternity. Miles is the current retiring AA, which means he sits on the Board of Regents for the Delta Chi fraternity. Miles is a UMass graduate, 1987. And he's also a new founder, which means he's given over $100,000 lifetime through the Delta Chi Educational Foundation. He also is on the board of directors for the Delta Chi Educational Foundation as an ex officio member, being the current retiring AA. So, Miles, thank you so much for taking some time to join us today. I know that you're coming to us live from your home in Pinehurst, North Carolina. To kick things off, we would love to hear a little bit about your Delta Chi story. So could you tell us, why did you join Delta Chi and what's kept you involved all these years? Why is it important to you?
Well, I didn't join Delta Chi. I joined Friends. And that's something I try to tell undergraduates on a regular basis, especially at the RLCs. They just happen to be Delta Chis. And they were friends of mine, and they kept on me, and I was never going to join a fraternity. There was no way, not going to happen, no chance. And sure enough, I wind up joining a fraternity. And I remember the day like it was yesterday, the day they gave me my bid. And, you get your bid, and you remember, Peter, I'm sure you got yours, and you jumped up and down and said, yes, yes. I took my bid, I read it, and I looked at them. And they looked at me back, and they said, well, are you going to join? I said, I don't know. I guess I want to talk to everybody first about a few things. So they accommodated me, much to my surprise. And at the next chapter meeting at the house at UMass, I stood in front of all the brothers, and I said, guys, I'm honored to have this bid, but I do have a question for you. And one guy, said, okay, what's your question? I said, do you haze? And this is 1985 at the University of Massachusetts. I mean, I'll let you guys answer that question for yourself. After you listen for the pin drop in the room, I said, because if you do, I'm not only going to quit, I'm going to turn you in. But if you don't, I'll stay involved the rest of my life. And they held up their end of the bargain. And I can honestly tell you, in 1985 at the University of Massachusetts, I went through the Delta Chi educational program the right way. And I was not hazed. And I have kept my promise to them, and I've lived my promise to them. Being a Delta Chi is not an oath you take once. It's an oath you live every day. And I've lived that oath, and I've done everything to my ability to fulfill my promise to the brothers I made a promise to. And that has involved everything from serving as a BB to an ABT president. I've been a housing corps president, I think. I've served on the Educational Foundation for at least a dozen years. I've been on the Board of Regents now for, I think, I could be wrong, but I think this is my 13th or 14th year. I think it's 13. Wow. And, I continue to serve, and I will continue to serve as long as the fraternity will have me.
You are an excellent example of someone who gives their time, their talent, and their treasure at different points in their life, right? Sometimes you have more of one or the other to give, but Sure. As long as you're giving one of those, and you've done that better than just about anybody else. So thank you so much for all of that.
Well, absolutely. And it's important to always give back to something that really helped shape your life, regardless of what that is. For me, it was Delta Chi. Delta Chi helped shape my life. It helped me to be a better leader and gave me skills that I would never get just as an average student. I mean, you join the fraternity, you get elected to the E-board, and you learn how to manage. You learn how to manage people. You learn how to manage a budget. You learn how to deal with conflict resolution. You learn how to compromise. You learn how to live with people.
Absolutely.
And all of those skills have helped me throughout my professional career, whether it's owning my own business or working for a Fortune 500 company. And I've been blessed to do both. And I'm kind of back to my own business thing again. But
let's talk a little bit about your professional career. We want to hear about that. Tell us, now I've heard your story, but I think it's inspirational. So let's talk a little bit about owning your own business in college, and then the success you had in sales, and then what you're doing now.
Well, it's not an easy start. I started working, I think I got my first job when I was about 8 years old, baling hay in Laconia, New Hampshire. I think I was getting about 10 cents a bale.
Oh my gosh.
The weather's always nice. It's always nice and cool on those days. It's the hottest days of the summer, obviously. And you're 8, and the bales of hay are about the size of you. But it taught me, you got to show up on time. You got to do what you're told, and I got money, which was great. And I've worked since. I've had a lot of different jobs. And when I was in high school, in junior high school, when I was working, I had to give part of my paycheck back to my mom because we needed the money. She needed the money. She had to run a house and raise 2 boys. So it wasn't a matter of working because I wanted to. I worked because I had to. And that discipline helped me through athletics. I was very, very involved in sports for years while I was in high school and also in college and a little bit in the afterlife there. And, going through college, I always had a job. And when I got to UMass, I wound up, while in college, I bought a couple of businesses. One of them was a local bar in town, and another one was a lot of rental property. I did that escapade for a long time. And the skills that I got from the fraternity really helped. I was running a business and owning a business before I joined, but my experience with the fraternity made me better at it, if that makes sense down the road.
Yeah.
And the experience that I got from the fraternity was invaluable when I hit the corporate world. Matter of fact, I don't think I ever would have been able to get into the corporate world without the skill sets that I got from my experience with Delta Chi.
So tell me a little bit about that corporate experience, right? I believe you worked for Lanier. You were a dealer manager over national accounts. You had a $26 million quota.
I did.
That's a significant role and amount of responsibilities. Talk a little bit about how the fraternity and some of those skills, what were some of the things that you really honed and used over and over and over?
Probably the best skill that I used, that I learned from the fraternity, was how to listen.
Oh.
And, when I sold my bar, I had another bar in Florida, and I wound up selling it. The guy walks in the bar, says, "I love this place. I want to buy it. Everything's for sale." So 2 months later, I didn't have a job. And I wasn't going back to Massachusetts. I wanted to stay down in Florida. And so I went to a headhunter. And I presented my resume, and I said, "I'll have all these skills. I'll do anything but sales." Sure enough, I got hired by Lanier, which is the dynamic and exciting world of copy machine sales. And I was a down-the-street sales rep. And you knock on doors, and you ask people to basically buy a copier from you that they probably don't really need. And it was tough. We were the most expensive brand. We were more expensive than Xerox at the time. And we never made a thing. We basically rebranded what we bought from other vendors, from Toshiba or Xerox, Canon, whatever. So we were always more expensive. And when I was an undergraduate at UMass, you learn to listen to your brothers. You learn to, especially if you're dealing with conflict resolution, where you're dealing with a committee. You've got everybody's ideas. You've got everybody's egos. You've got everybody who wants what they want, and you have to figure out how to manage it. And what I learned was God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Use the ears more than the mouth. And I learned, and that's where I learned to listen. And as a sales rep, you learn to listen to what the customer wants, and then you give it to them. And if you give your customer what they want, they're going to buy it. And as I had very, very great success in sales, quite frankly, I was promoted, and I eventually wound up in Atlanta at the corporate headquarters as a dealer manager, where I had 6 customers, and I had a $26 million quota. That's where I learned what it was like not to sleep at night worrying about your job. Yeah. And I traveled from Lansing, Michigan, all the way down to Texas, and I had I had customers in Louisiana. My 2 big customers were based out of Ohio. So I would spend literally 2 weeks a month in Ohio with one or the other dealer, and I would help them with everything from hiring to firing to training to handling some of their major accounts with their reps, closing closing sales, training their customers, working with technicians to figure out what problems were, to sometimes being that person that the customer just wants to vent on because I represent the manufacturer, if you will. And it was a great job. It was extremely difficult. I mean, it was a very challenging job because you were on the road all the time, and you never knew what you were going to walk into that day. And at the end of the day, you had to sell for the guy who's writing my paycheck, not my dealer, but the guy who's writing my paycheck. But if I sold the stuff for the dealer, that meant the dealer was going to buy more from me, which is in fact was sales. I had one customer I had to get $1 million a month out of.
Wow.
Yeah, he became my best friend.
I bet. That's a good way to do it for sure. Wow, Miles, well, it certainly sounds like a great experience, and you're so articulate in being able to say, what you learned in Delta Chi and applying that in the professional world. I want to shift gears for a moment here, and let's talk a little bit about the foundation, the Delta Chi Education Foundation. You have a scholarship. You have a national, or I should say an international scholarship that's available for students to earn. Yes. One of the merit-based scholarships that we have, certainly there's an academic component to it, but a lot of it is, and I don't want to steal the thunder here, but tell us a little bit about what you look for in an award winner. Sure. And why you created this. Why is it important to you?
That's a great question, Peter. And it's funny because I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want people to think, oh, this is Miles, because it's not. It's not about Miles. None of this is about Miles. To me, it's all about the student. And I thought back as my career progressed and I became more and more successful, and God blessed me with success, and with that, these days comes a little bit of financial stability. And I thought about what was my road to this area of success like? What was it like for Miles? And I had to go back to the very beginning, to almost that day I received my bid. I was an older student. I was already a senior when I joined the fraternity. Of course, I had multiple years as a senior because I was running businesses and school was kind of not as quite important to me. And I thought about that. And I thought, what's it like for the older student? We spend a lot of time talking about the 18 and the 19-year-old students. We don't talk a lot about the 20, 21, 22, maybe 23-year-old students. And are they married? Do they have a family? Do they work full time? Like I was working 60 hours a week plus going to school at point. And what's it like for them? And I remembered what it was like. Where I got tuition, I got books, I've got all this stuff I got to pay for. And again, I was blessed. I was able to do that. But I know that there's some people out there who aren't as blessed and need some help. And I thought, I'm going to gear this scholarship in this direction. Now, you don't have to be an older student to win it, but I created this scholarship thinking about that older student. And that's why I'd like to refer to it as a needs-based scholarship as opposed to you have to have a 4.0 or a 3.5. I know there's been winners of my scholarship that have had a 2.4 and a 2.3, but they've been very active in their chapter. They've been working full time. They're counting solely on student funding, financial aid, if you will, right, to get through school. So if a student wins, when the brother wins my scholarship, the check isn't made out to the brother. It's made out to the brother and the school because it's designed to help with their education. It's not designed to help with their rent. It's not designed to help with a social life. It's not designed to help them buy all the Delta Chi swag they can get. It's strictly designed to go to the university or college for whether it's tuition, whether it's books, whether it's night classes, whatever it takes. The hope is to have that brother graduate on time, have that brother graduate, period. stay in school. At the end of the day, I tell our brothers, school is number one. Delta Chi might be number two.
Right.
But getting your education and graduating is number one. Because if you get your education and you graduate, what will follow naturally will be a great Delta Chi experience. And a great Delta Chi experience that people don't think about is after they've graduated. Because then they've got a campus to go home to. And then they realize when they start going to a convention or an RLC as an alumnus, how big we are and the brotherhood that we have. I'm from the UMass chapter, but I belong to the Delta Chi International chapter. And that's an experience. I mean, you went to Georgia Southern.
Right.
If it were not for Delta Chi, we never would have met.
Absolutely.
With the other men on the Board of Regents, there is coincidentally one guy from UMass. But other than that one guy, I never would have met any of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're part of this great international chapter of Delta Chi. And so the scholarship is designed for that, to help them stay in school. There's a 500-word essay you've got to write that, tell me about what you're doing for Delta Chi.
Okay.
What are you doing to impact Delta Chi right now as an undergraduate? And there's a lot of weight put on that essay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a wonderful reason to create a scholarship. I never knew that. I never knew that backstory. That's wonderful. I'm going to be talking about that more often. Thank you so much for looking back at your success and saying, how can I pay it forward? Right. And
yes.
You've done that so well, and you give to a lot of the different funds that we have, but that's certainly one, and we award that every year, is the Miles Washburn Scholarship. So thank you for setting that up and endowing that.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Let me go down the road a little bit of the foundation on a broader perspective, and you talked about this a little bit a little while ago. You talked about giving and giving back, and you said it really nicely. Said, I challenge you to give to something.
Absolutely.
We've got a lot of different fund accounts that the foundation manages. We've got over 68 different funds. That's leadership. Some of them are scholarships like yours. Some of them are specific chapter scholarships, and then one of them is the general fund. We also have an endowment if someone wants to give money and watch their money grow and pay for our programs in perpetuity. Well, Miles, what is so important to you about the Delta Chi Educational Foundation and the partnership through the Delta Chi fraternity? And I don't think a lot of people know that there's two separate organizations that are working in partnership. So if you could talk a little bit about that,
sure.
We would love from your perspective.
Well, they're two separate organizations for tax reasons and liability reasons, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's Delta Chi. The Delta Chi education is working for Delta Chi. And Delta Chi, as a whole, is working for all the brothers, undergraduate brothers and alumnus brothers alike. And I like to challenge brothers to give. Whenever I do something like this, and Peter's going to ask me for money. He always does. I respect that. It's his job. And I like to say, well, okay, I'm going to challenge people to give, because at the end of this interview, he's going to ask me, and I'm going to hand him my credit card, and the thing's going to melt some more. But when you give to an organization like Delta Chi, and you mentioned it, you've got 68 different accounts in the foundation. The brother might be sitting here going, I don't know what to give to. And so I challenge you to give to something, whether it's the general fund to help the foundation operate, whether it's the endowment fund to endow the general fund, whether you want to give to a scholarship and you don't know, go on the website, take a look at the various scholarships that are there, choose one. The A's Academy is, the crown jewel, if you will. You've got ECI accounts. You've got all kinds of different areas to go and look at. And I would challenge the brother to go and dabble around. Go and see what you can find that you feel good giving about, and then give to it. And try to give to it monthly or quarterly. And that's what I do. I try to give a decent amount of money multiple times a year. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's not as much, but it all depends upon the year. But I challenge you to do that, because you've got to give back to what has given us so many of our life skills that we don't even realize we have and that we use on a daily basis. We don't even realize where they came from, but they had to come from somewhere, and they were developed along the way. And that's where Delta Chi really comes into play for the undergraduate, developing those skills. I mean, you find me an independent college student who's going to get accounting skills, running a budget skills, collection skills, risk management skills, conflict resolution skills, people managing skills. The A and the B have to do.
Right.
You know, the constant writing of reports for the C. All these are skills that these undergraduates are going to use in their professional life. So when they interview for jobs, they've got these skills that the average student doesn't have. And where do they get them? They get them from Delta Chi.
Absolutely. Well, you're so articulate about that, and you've seen that over and over as you've traveled around the country. And I know, just like myself, you've had the opportunity to talk to Delta Chi's across the generations.
Absolutely.
And hear those same things over and over. Let's talk just for a minute about, so let's say someone's listening to this and they say, okay, you got me. I want to give. Where do I do that? Do I give through the fraternity and I send it to Indianapolis, or can I give it through the foundation? And why should I give it through the foundation? The tax deductible piece of it is appealing.
Sure.
Can you talk just a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of try to close things up?
Sure. You know, and the donor can give to both, or either one. They can give to the Delta Chi fraternity in Indianapolis if they want, and they can give to the Delta Chi Educational Foundation if they want. The advantage for the foundation is that it's tax deductible. It is a 501c3, and you get to write it off on your taxes. I take advantage of that. I'm not going to lie. Of course I do.
Right.
And most of your larger donors will do that. They are looking at the end of the year. Perfect time to do it, guys. Perfect time. End of the year. Make sure it's postmarked by the 31st. Learned that from experience.
Thank you.
You know, you do get a tax write-off, and that's important. And it's the season of giving. It's the time to give. We give to our churches. We give to Toys for Tots. We give to the angel trees. But let's not forget about where we got our skill set. Let's not forget about where we got the ability to give to other organizations. Let's not forget about coming home.
That's wonderful. Miles, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us here today.
Absolutely.
It's really been a pleasure. I've learned some things I didn't know about you, and I think I'm better for it. So in closing, I'll give you the last word. Is there anything you'd like to say as we wrap up?
Absolutely. I'm gonna be a salesman, and I'm gonna ask you to give. Again, I did it a minute ago, but I'm gonna ask you to give to anything. Give to anything for the fraternity. Choose a scholarship. Choose the endowment fund. Choose the general fund. Choose the A's Academy. Get that feeling. Get that feeling of giving to your organization and see how good it feels. And then watch our students grow. Watch our students take advantage of your generosity. Watch them make our fraternity better for the next group of guys coming along. And that's what we should really be trying to focus on, making Delta Chi better for the future. Because if we don't prospect and take care of our future, there comes a time where there's no more future. So we've got to plant those seeds now and continue to grow and make our organization better.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.